Shalom, Kahalalim, La Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Racha HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of GMS who rule well, who I learned this truth from. And salutations and blessings to you elect out there, starting with the 144,000 on down. So the title of this lesson is called Check Your Spiritual Blind Spot. Okay, check your spiritual blind spot. Alright, so a lot of examples in life, and you can connect this with the truth as well, of course. Can come from examples. A simple example of driving your car, okay, staying in your lane, and all these not parables but metaphors and examples, they apply. And specifically your spiritual blind spot. We all have blind spots. What is the purpose of a blind spot, right? Or a blind spot check in a car. When you're driving, you have your rear view mirror, okay, and you have your dashboard mirror, right? The mirror on top, right, in the center mirror, okay. But both those mirrors, they can't show you one little spot that seems insignificant, but if you miss it, right? And I've had this happen a couple times, and this really was instilled to me when I used to drive a motorcycle, right? So you better check your blind spot on a motorcycle, unless you want to translate to the spiritual realm. But in a car as well, it's that little spot where you think you're good. You didn't check. You check your rear view, you check your center mirror, okay, you think you're good, and then you swerve left, and there's a car right there, right on you, right on that dangerous spot. Either it's coming behind you, or it was in another lane, and it changed lanes, but you couldn't see it because it's obviously not right beside you. It's right, not even behind you. It's at the side of you. So that blind spot, it seems very small. You got to keep checking, looking over your shoulder when you turn, especially on the highway. It can mess you up. So spiritually, it can be something as small, as something that's been festering. A small greed, a small envy, a small whatever demon, and you haven't been checking it, and it's been growing. This is Proverbs 16:2. All the ways of a man are clean in his own eyes, but the Lord Yahweh weigheth the spirits. NLT says people may be pure in their own eyes, but the Lord Yahweh examines their motives. So this is why it's very important to examine yourself daily, as Paul exhorted us, to examine yourself, to sit still and to really reflect, right? Very important. Okay, a spiritual blind spot is an unrecognized flaw, attitude, or pattern in one's life, such as pride, bitterness, or complacency, which is lukewarm or cold, right? That hinders personal growth, relationships, and one's connection with the Most High. These areas of self-deception, because you're lying to yourself. Right? When you lie to other people, you're lying to yourself firstly. Right? Are often invisible to the person, requiring, for example, humility, which humility comes with meekness, being humble enough to accept shame, to confess to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. This is where you get the word humiliation from, to be humiliated. Of course you get humiliated. When you come in the truth, when I came in the truth, I had to be humiliated of how stupid I was in the world. That was a humiliation ritual on the right-hand side. Hey, just like these lesser luminaries, these celebrities, they got to go through humiliation rituals. There's a thing called the Black Eye Club, right? And there's pictures of all kinds of actors, entertainers, businessmen, directors, whatever. They got a black eye. They got a bruise right under their eye. Because that's the thing they do. They pop you, and then they actually punch you in the face. They get physical, right? That's there's all kinds of, you got to wear a dress, you know, so there's all kinds of humiliation rituals on the left hand side. It's the same on the right hand side. You got to confess, man, to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, right? You were eating pork, you might have been committing adultery, depending on how old you were when you came in the truth. You know, you may have been doing this. Just even that mindset, the mentality you were in, you were like a beast, man. Just like King David said, so foolish was I was as a beast before thee. Right? So humility, Bible study, and accountability to identify and correct. Okay? Now, let me get 1 John. What is that? 1 John 2 and 15. I'll read it in the NLT. It says, do not love this world nor the things it offers you. For when you love the world, you do not have the love of the Father in you. For the world offers only a craving for physical pleasure, lust of the flesh, pleasing the flesh, right? Doing things that benefit the flesh, not the spirit, right? Very important to understand. A craving for everything we see, right? And pride in our achievements and possessions. Now, there's a righteous balance to that, of course. You do something, you're happy, but the spirit these people come in, man, that's, they wear that shit on their sleeve. Everything they own. And didn't Yahushua say that a man's life is not pretty much, roughly paraphrasing, a man's life does not consist of the things he owns, right? These people, that's what they're proud of, right? Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, they said in Jeremiah, don't boast in your strength or this or that. Boast in the fact that you know me, that you know Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, right? It says, a craving for everything we see and pride in our achievements and possessions. These are not from the Father, but are from this world. And this world is fading away along with everything that people crave, right? You got an entertainment streaming app called Crave. Obey your thirst, obey your hunger. All these different ads that they push out, advertisements, which is just hypnosis, man. It's pretty much commercials, media, the mass media. It's all hypnosis, man. Getting you to just jump in the deep end of fulfilling the lusts of your flesh. That's a lesson right there. Jump in the fucking deep end to please the flesh and drown. Fucking drown, right? But anyone who does what pleases the Most High will live forever. Literally. Okay, that's literally. What is that? James. Get that. James 1:14 NLT. Temptation comes from our own desires, which entice us and drag us away. These desires give birth to sinful actions, and when sin is allowed to grow, it gives birth to death. Exactly, right? We will always be in a sinful nature. This very body is sin, is iniquity. It's literally, we're fashioned, right? We're literally fashioned to be anti, discipline, to be anti keeping the laws of the Most High. The body craves what? Pleasure, loafing, right? We used to call people that are lazy loafing. You're a loafter. You're loafing. You're such a loaf, right? Sluggard. Wants to chill. And guess what? All it imagines is evil. You got one woman, the mind, the flesh, it wants two, it wants three. It wants more. You got money, I want more. You got recognition, power, I want more. Right? Like in the Matrix, the Oracle told Neo about the Merovingian. She's like, what do men with all power want? More power. Right? And that's also, let me get this real quick. Right? Like I said, we're subject to this, man. Genesis 6:5, the Lord Yahweh observed, NLT, the extent of human wickedness on the earth, and he saw that everything they thought or imagined was consistently and totally evil. See? So from the beginning, right, that flesh, not really from the beginning, when Adam and the Adamites fell, that lineage, the sons of God fell, became the Nephilim, the fallen, the giants, so-called giants in reputation, they fell. So back to James, select James 1, right? So you can't let it grow. The thing is, we can't control our thoughts. You get a wicked thought, you got to rebuke it. You can't control that, okay? The flesh is constantly grinding and battling against the spirit, right? Verse 15, these desires give birth to sinful actions, and when sin is allowed to grow, this is why we're coming into what time? The Passover, the Pesach, which is a time of what? Purging, right? Purging. We have the bitter herbs, the horseradish, okay? You got some dandelion greens, bitters, and no yeast, nothing that rises. So you're purging out spiritually, your desires. Right? It gives birth to death. So don't be misled, my brothers and sisters, okay? Proverbs 4:23. Right? It says, keep thy heart with all diligence. Right? Heart, the word here is lab, which means mind. For out of it are the issues of life. NLT says, guard your heart above all else. Guard your mind. And this is, Esau knows this, man. I did a lesson last year about, the CIA, pretty much. There was, what do you call it? Unclassified or declassified documents, where they pretty much admitted, look, we know, there's a left and a right hemisphere of the brain. The left, I believe, is, your critical thinking, judgment, perception, prudence, and the right is, if I'm not mistaken, either one, right, whichever one it is, the other side is, of course, the creativity, more joy, acceptance, and artsy and all that stuff. So Esau knows how to already, just through TV, right? Never mind, now we have apps and phones and streaming, but just through TV, television, he already knows how to bypass that part of the brain that's supposed to defend you from madness, right? Pretty much critical thinking. No, this is madness, I got to turn this off. Esau knows how to go through that and then just go to your part that's the part of the brain that accepts. So guard your heart above all else. There's a reason why all these advertisements are constantly in your face. Everything from Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, you scroll and there's an ad. Scroll, video, ad. You're driving, you see a big billboard ad. Commercials. It's all influencing you on the spiritual level, right? So guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. That blind spot, right? You got to check that blind spot, man. All right. Now let's go to Sirach 18. Let me get that. Sirach. See, because it all really starts in that mind, man. Sirach 18:30 reads, go not after thy lust, but refrain thyself from thine appetites. Right? Now I wanted to get this actually in the GNT. Right? This is the GNT, I believe. Yes. It reads, don't be controlled by your lust. Keep your passions in check. And also, let me get this. I think it was the NRSA. Yeah. Right? It says, do not follow your base desires. Right? And this society's in a base. Who's ruling? The base man. They are children of fools. He was viler than the earth. Base men. Right? The base desires, man. Like the Elder Kanak goes into the yoga, the base root, the root chakra. They got you in the lust. Lusting, man. Gooning, as they call it nowadays. Gooning, simping. It's crazy, bro. Like I'll see a TikTok, of some hoe. She's streaming. She's not an OnlyFans girl. She ain't got nothing. And then you got a bunch of men. Does she have any other content? Oh, does she have spicy content? At first I'm like, what the fuck? What does that mean? And then I figured it out. I'm like, these guys are bugged out, man. You guys are actually bugged out, man. But again, there's enchantments being spread across this society, man. Sorcery, right? It says Revelation 18, right at the end, it says, by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. Okay, so, but restrain your appetites if you allow your soul to take pleasure in base desire. What is base desire? Just pretty much, I'll be vague. Not vague, vulgar. I'll be vulgar. Busting nuts, man. Okay? Popping holes and just being like a beast. Right? Being a fucking beast. Following your passions, your desires. Not putting a stop. Not exercising discipline. Right? It will make you the laughing stock of your enemies. Now, real quick, let me see what the Seba says, if I'm not mistaken. Common English. Yeah, it says the same thing. All right, let me just get this scripture. This is a beautiful scripture. Wisdom of Solomon 4. Okay. And 12. Let's start in the NRSA. It says, for the fascination of wickedness obscures what is good, right? That curiosity, like Eve, that curiosity, that desire, the lust of the eyes, everything that you see with your eyes. You know, you start out curious, then you become an alternative lifestyle participant, gender fluid. You know, you just become bugged out. You know, you're curious, right? You follow some path, and it leads you to darkness. Now you're just lost, and you defiled your soul, right? For the fascination of wickedness obscures what is good. It darkens it. It clouds, as they say, it clouds your judgment, right? And roving desire perverts the innocent mind. Let's look up that word, roving, to rove, right? Moving, wandering, or traveling, right? The scriptures say in Sirach, winnow not with every wind and go not into every way, right? So roving desire perverts the innocent mind. It'll corrupt you. Paul said in worldly, let me actually try to find that real quick. Either child or children. It's in the Corinthians. Children, it might be children. So like, bear with me. Right, 1 Corinthians 14 and 20. Brethren, be not children in understanding. In what understanding? This truth, this knowledge, this way, right? The path that we're on. Be not children, meaning don't be simple. When you come in, you're simple, but you got to grow, right? Howbeit, in malice be ye children, but in understanding be men. NLT says, dear brothers and sisters, don't be children, or don't be childish in your understanding of these things. Be innocent as babies when it comes to evil, right? Be a simp when it comes to evil. Be simple, meaning don't dabble in it. Be innocent minded. Don't pervert. Don't go in the way, you know, in the wrong way. But be mature in understanding matters of this kind. See? Verse 13, back in Wisdom of Solomon 4, being perfected in a short time, they fulfilled long years, for their souls were pleasing to the Lord Yahweh. Therefore, he took them quickly from the midst of wickedness. Now, let me get this. This is very good in the, I believe, GNT, or if not, yes. 4 and 12. We all know that people can be so fascinated by evil that they cannot recognize what is good, even when they are looking right at it. Right? So you're already fascinated by evil, man. And that's, them spirits grab a hold of you. So now you can't even, you don't know which way to get out. That's why Paul just said, we just read that. In evil be children. Be like children. Be simple. Be innocent, right? A child is innocent, so to speak, right? We know, you know, nobody perished being innocent, but you understand, right? The balance of that. It says, good even when they're looking, right? Innocent people can be so corrupted with desire that they think of nothing but what they want. Meaning the flesh. I want this, not need. You need the spirit. Man shall not live by bread bread alone, but by every word, right, that proceedeth out of my mouth, out of the Most High, pretty much, right? Roughly paraphrasing. Verse 13, this man Enoch achieved in a few years' time a perfection that other people could never attain in a complete lifetime. Whew. That's heavy, man. The Lord Yahweh was pleased with Enoch's life and quickly took him out of this wicked world. People were aware of his departure, but didn't understand. They never seemed to learn the lesson that the Most High is kind and merciful to his own people. He protects those whom he has chosen. See? So Enoch was, Enoch, geez, that's a heavy man. You know, and he has a testimony, which we don't have. You know, we got a mention in the book of Jude that Enoch prophesied, so we know he had a testimony, he had a part in the scriptures. Okay? But the Lord, you know, he hid that pretty much. We don't need that, you know? We need what we got, what the Lord gave us. That's it. That's all we need. We don't need Jasher. We don't need Book of Enoch. Okay? We don't need the lost scrolls of I don't know, Timbuktu, whatever, whatever Jake, you know, gets into. But anyway, that was the point. You know, again, check your spiritual blind spot. All right, as it says here, you can be so fascinated by evil. It's tempting. It looks pleasing, right? The book of Proverbs, I believe 7, it mentions it parallels a whore, a harlot, a beautiful, sweet smelling, right? It said myrrh, cinnamon. She smelled good, with wisdom, with different philosophies and an evil way, right? Something that'll get you into sin. It looks good. That's the point. You know, it's pleasing to the eyes, but then it's corrupting to the soul. All right. Anyway, shalom, kahalalin, la Yahweh Bashim Yahushai.